Four important river assets at the headwaters of the Loddon and Campaspe catchments are the Loddon River Reach 10, Sailors Creek, Coliban River Reach 22 and Kangaroo Creek. These waterways have high value because of their healthy ecological state. In fact, some sections have been described as near pristine. They support intact and important streamside vegetation. They're home to threatened flora and fauna species, deliver good quality water to downstream users, and provide important habitat for aquatic animals. The major threats to these waterways are invasive plants, declining water quality due to the development of land next to the streams, and degraded streamside vegetation. Common to all four of these assets is an intense gold mining history which had a huge impact on the waterways in the past. It was particularly intense on the Loddon and Sailors Creek.
There is history down there. There are a lot of mine shafts just below this area, shallow mine shafts, and left by the Chinese when they were here, 2,000 Chinese on the creek.
The Chinese were the largest group of foreign nationals on the diggings, and by 1858 they comprised 20% of the colony's mining population. But in spite of the huge impact of the gold rush times, the rivers have been resilient. Today there are only scattered signs of this history visible to the eye. Uneven mullocky ground, tailings and the evidence of old mine shafts. But more recently, over the past 20 years, there's been a significant change in land usage, with a migration of people from the city and the subdivision of farming properties into smaller holdings.
It's close to Melbourne. The water quality is good. The country is good. It's some of the best country in the state. It's undulating. It's God's little acre, as I'd describe it. Yeah.
Just in this immediate area, there were two families living here. We now have a community fireguard group, just this Mains Road area, and there are 26 members of that fireguard group. Down at the corner there was one mailbox. It served 4 people. But then I've forgotten what the count is now. It's about 20 mailboxes down there at the corner of Denver.
Between our place and Wood End there used to be 2 houses, and now in that Ashbourne Road and the offsets to it, there'd be, I'd say, getting close to 600 or 800.
But happily, these newcomers are often keen to be good custodians of the land and look after the waterways.
The people that move here from the city, I guess a lot of people look on it as hobby farming, but in our experience, quite a lot of the friends we've made here, and we've made them through Landcare and through beef check course and the like, have taken that hobby farming pretty seriously. And I think some of the properties are probably run as efficiently as a bigger farm might ever be run.
Well, when we bought this property in 2000, this area just where we are now was covered with gorse and blackberry, and so what we set about doing was to remove the gorse and blackberry over a period of time, and then Jill's undertaken a tremendous replanting program.
It was one of the most wonderful things about this property, to discover the river after we knew the river was there, but there was so much gorse and blackberry. You couldn't see it from the house, and it was difficult to walk along the banks. So it was exciting and wonderful. The rock formations and the natural environment, once the weeds had been removed, was astonishing. We love it.
Some of the properties here have undergone significant development. Paul Bangay is a well-known landscape garden designer who has built a European-style property close to one of the targeted assets. Paul also runs a small herd of cattle.
I didn't want the cattle coming into this area. I really want to maintain it as not a pristine. It can't be pristine because all the weeds are here. But try and keep it as indigenous as possible to the area. So by keeping the cattle out, hopefully the native grasses will come back properly. We've got the native orchids in here. Some of the ferns might come back. So the hope is that we can keep it as a natural forest down here.
Weeds, primarily gorse, blackberry and willow, are a significant problem for all of these river reaches.
Larger weeds, larger numbers of them in the one place. Blackberries crowding stream sides for many hundreds of metres, whereas in the past they might have existed in pockets. So an increase in weeds, it's a big job, it's such a big job.
Recent action by the CMA has involved the use of contractors to mechanically remove the gorse and blackberries. There's also a problem with willows that were once planted to help stabilise the stream banks. Typical was the willow invasion at the Malmsbury Common on the banks of the Coliban.
Well, in 2006, this area of water behind us, you would hardly have seen it. It was completely filled. The old willows had cracked, as their cracked willow, fallen into the river, reshot. For about another 3 kilometres downstream was known as the Malmsbury Choke, where the entire riverbed was in fact blocked and closed with willows. There wasn't a single spot for at least 2.5 km from here where you could actually put a fishing line in and see the water. The entire river was completely choked with willow. Since the willows have gone, what we've seen, the truth of, if you get the shady willows out, that the sedges come back. Botanists have been through here jumping up and down, calling it, one bloke called it a botanical ark, in terms of the remnant sedges and reeds and rushes and other plants that have remained in this area, which were being overcome by the willows. Within 12 months, what we just see behind us here is all regrowth.
Some suggest that all non-Indigenous vegetation should be removed from our waterways without exception.
Aspirations, what I'd like to see in the future, basically a restoration of what it once used to be. We're in an environment here, which is not part of Europe, and so I don't see any sense that a European tree should live along this river.
But others argue that some of these introduced trees form a very attractive and important part of the landscape.
I think it's a matter of just having policies that recognise the heritage value of certain places. Heritage values are part of not only an important spiritual, if you like, and cultural heritage in central Victoria, in this case, but they're also part of our economy, they're part of our tourist industry. People come to a place like Dalesford because it has non-Indigenous trees, because it has autumn trees, because it has Europeanised landscapes.
And to add yet another view, the permaculture approach sees those willow mats in the stream beds as a way of repairing the ecosystem.
I certainly see that direction of change in our streams in these new emergent forests is one where they are rebuilding the floor of the stream back up the material that was lost after European settlement, with the huge carving out of our stream courses. So they're building up that core of absorbent soil, alluvial soils along the stream courses, which of course holds the water and provides a constant seepage zone.
But while the removal of exotic trees can be a contentious issue, there is one thing that all the catchment communities agree on. There's a lot less water visible in these waterways.
There was so much water here. But I would say the last 10 years we had less and less rain in winter, and right now we don't have any water in the creek. It used to be beautiful coming here on a summer evening down to the creek. I used to come here quite often with my daughter, and we sit on the bank and watch the platypus and the water rats playing in the water.
10 years we were where I am, and I actually just did this the other day, we're looking at an average rainfall of 1100 to 1200 millimetres of rainfall. The average over the last 7 years has been 860 millimetres of rainfall. So that represents a 20 to 30% reduction in rainfall over the last 7 years, which some people say is drought, but I just think it's the beginnings of climate change, and we've sort of have a shift in weather patterns, and this is probably the way of the future.
Whatever the future does hold for our climate and these waterways, it's clear that with assistance, the communities living here are keen to continue to work to preserve and enhance these special places.
I mean, I think the thing that we've always felt is that we're here for a relatively short period of time, and you don't own the river. You never really, I mean, okay, it's also Crown land, and so you don't own it from that point of view, but nevertheless, I mean, we're a caretaker for a relatively short period of time, and the whole aim is to leave it better than we found it, basically. And if we can do that, then perhaps we might even reflect the approach the Aboriginal people took to managing land, rather than this sort of pressure for, or not pressure, but concept of ownership.
There's quite a spiritual element to working with the land, closely with the land. And when you're down on your hands and knees and you're surrounded by birds and little creatures, and you smell the smell of the soil, and you look around you and you start seeing little plants regenerating, and the excitement of finding some of the wildflowers growing again is quite magic.